Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Okay, what's up? It's Angela Yee, and we are here doing something a little different just because a friend of mine, Jennifer, and I have been friends since high school, since 10th grade. I saw a post that you have put up on your Instagram about having to deal with, a guy that actually had scammed you. So I saw a lot of people weighing in, and I just wanted to break down from your side, what you're saying happened, how you knew this man, and how he managed to get your Range Rover and what's been going on since then.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try and give you the long, short version, but basically, I met this man in Atlanta. I've been knowing him for probably it was like a little over a year. And, we developed a relationship. I ended up moving to Atlanta, and I had an issue with the closing on my house. I was leaving out of town. I have 2 vehicles, and he claims that he's a car dealership. So again, this is somebody that I knew. We had a relationship at one point, so I trusted him. I gave him my car to basically put up and hold for me because obviously I can't drive 2 vehicles. And, when I got settled into my house, I asked him for my car back, and he would not give me my car back. He stopped answering my phone calls, and my Range Rover basically disappeared. So what I come to find out in doing a little investigating, one, he told me his name was, which was a lie. His name is actually, and the way that I found that out was I had to actually Google his mother's obituary. And that's when I found what his real name was. I found this article in Lipstick Alley where I connected with Ramona, and I realized that this man has been doing this for quite some time, actually probably 20 years or so.
Wow. Okay, so just to break it down, so you guys have been dating. At that time, were you still in a relationship?
No.
Okay, so this was like an ex, but you guys were still cool. So he was doing you a favor.
Yes, and I moved to Atlanta. I don't know a lot of people there. He was in the car business, and he was, he was like, listen, I can hold a car for you. It's not a big deal. And I was like, okay, like, great. I didn't have anywhere to put the car, and I was leaving out of town. So I figured, all right, well, I'll just give him my car to put up, not to drive around, but just to hold my vehicle. And then he just never gave it back.
Now, some people were saying, I noticed, oh, well, don't you Google somebody when you're dating them? How do you not know this? Had you met any of his family members, any of his friends? And had you Googled the name that he gave you as his name?
Yes, I did Google his name, and nothing comes up because one, it's not his real name. He told me his name was. And what I have learned throughout this whole process is that he goes by different aliases. And so I had met one of his daughters, but I mean, she wasn't gonna tell me his real name, she calls him dad. So I met some people that were his friends, but he goes by Nick. So he doesn't even go by his real name because his last name. So that's just kind of his nickname.
Okay. So now you said you found this article on Lipstick Alley once you discovered what his real name was, and that's what led you to Ramona, right?
Yes.
So Ramona, let's get to you and the article that you wrote, what was in it, and how you and Jennifer connected.
Okay. I was involved with Nick from 2004 until about 2010. In the beginning of 2011, a woman contacted me. I'm not exactly sure how she got my information, but she contacted me, and it turns out that she was the mother of one of his children. We compared stories and talked about, some of the things that he had done, and we realized that this information needed to be out there. When I first got involved with him, just as Jennifer stated, there was nothing on him on the internet. And you can Google everyone and get some information about everyone. So I thought it was kind of interesting that nothing came up. So we decided that we were actually going to develop a web page that had a lot of information about him. He was able to get that web page removed, some years ago. So she also put up ripoff reports in regards to him, and then I chose to post on Lipstick Alley and connect the ripoff report and talk about my dealings with him. The post, only got but so much attention. And it wasn't until most recently that I guess it was brought to Jennifer's attention, and we connected and started to compare stories about this person. Now, I hadn't seen him in over a decade, so I was surprised that he was still doing, these things.
So what is it that he did to you, like specifically?
Well, when I met him, just as Jennifer has stated, he gave me a different name. He actually told me his name was Nick Clark. And maybe a few months into the relationship, I found out that his name was actually Aaron Nichols. At the time, he told me he was a retired athlete. He told me, and of course, that you couldn't Google that. He told me that he was involved in numerous businesses, and I did see, the luxury cars, and there was a lot in Las Vegas that housed a number of these luxury cars. At the time, I had my own car, my own vehicle that I was making payments on, and he stated, if we're going to be in a relationship, we should upgrade your car. And I told him, I'm still making payments on the car. He suggested that we return the car and then just get a new car. So I felt uneasy about that, but I gave him my car to return to the dealership. He never did. The car just kind of disappeared, and I was still making payments on it. I was making payments on it until, it was a charge off. Now, at the time, again, I was still in a relationship with him, so I was in other vehicles. He had me in numerous luxury cars. So even though I was still making payments on the other car, I really didn't just think much of it. There were other instances where he would ask for me to pick up a luxury car in a certain state and then deliver it to a different state. He stated again that he was a dealer, and these were people that were leasing or financing or purchasing the cars from him. Now, the places where I picked up these cars were dealerships, but they weren't his.
Right.
He also stated that he had a cleaning company. He stated that, he had different foundations. So he had a number of businesses, but all of the businesses were attached to a post office box that I used as well. There were no physical addresses for any of these buildings, for any of these businesses. But again, this was the person I chose to be in a relationship with, so I believed him when he told me whatever it was. At the conclusion of the relationship, as I mentioned when I spoke with the mother of one of his children, that's when we found out that, again, all of these things were fictitious, and he had been doing this to a number of women. And that's why we chose to put that post up.
Now, what happened when both of you contacted the police, or did you contact the police? Then what happened?
Well, okay, for me, so obviously my car was stolen, so I contacted the Smyrna police because that's where the car got taken from. And to be honest with you, it's been a little over a month, and there hasn't been any resolution. They literally just put my car in as stolen, and I put up the post because I was a little frustrated because here it is, I have this vehicle that I don't have, it's stolen, and nobody's telling me anything. So I'm like, all right, well, I know social media is a huge platform, and I know that he's in Atlanta, so let me put the post up. Maybe somebody has seen him. And then when I was talking to Ramona, I realized that we started comparing stories. We started talking to other people. He has been doing this. The amount of stories that have come in, we haven't proven anything. We don't know that these stories are verified, but everybody has a similar story about this man. And so it's like, everybody can't be lying, but really there's not been much traction from the police.
Now, Jamie, you're Jennifer's attorney, right? So I would like for you to step in right now and just talk about, if something like this happens to somebody, like you're dealing with Jennifer's case, what can a person do? And what are you treated like when it comes to the police department, when you try to report something like this? What are your options?
Well, Angela, I appreciate you having me on the program. I've been, for the last 20 years, I've been representing people who were injured or wronged as a result of the negligence or the intentional acts of others. But in that time, rarely have I seen a situation like this where, through our investigation, we've seen that this man has left a trail of victims, it appears, for a decade or more. You heard from Ramona, who was talking about a similar situation over 10 years ago. And fortunately, Ms. Williams was brave enough to come forward and make that post and make this public because frankly, I think what we've found in hearing the stories of people who've responded to that post is unfortunately they have not had much help when they've sought recourse through the legal system. And so what we're trying to do is connect the dots, the victims, and show what this man appears to have done, and really show the power of social media programs like yours, where a voice can be given to people who haven't had that opportunity before. And Ms. Williams is not going to rest in this situation. This is not just at this point about her Range Rover. She's seeking justice not only for herself but for the others, and she has the power of the platform of social media and being able to come on your program, and many of the other victims don't have that.
Right.
So they have, she's reached out to me as an attorney to help her, and we've reached out to the police department. There's an active investigation with the Smyrna Police Department. Smyrna is a suburb of Atlanta, and but frankly, it's really the power of the people that sometimes can put the pressure on that'll stop people like this, because people who are doing these kind of things, they need to be exposed. And oftentimes individual stories that are not connected, that go to one police jurisdiction and another, they never get tied together, and people can slip through the cracks. Ramona, I think, has seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm incredibly proud of her, because this situation was something that happened to her over 10 years ago, and she's still seeking justice, and we hope to help provide that for her as well, because it's time that this all stops.
Yeah, Ramona, you can see, just not having the platform that Jennifer has, right, how difficult it was for your story to even be heard, and now it's finally getting some traction 10 years later.
I know. And it is difficult speaking with a number of, these alleged victims. There's some strength in anonymity. We were unable to get our stories out. Some people were afraid to come forward to the authorities. How do you report a car stolen when you kind of had a relationship with this person? How do you then report your credit being abused when you had a relationship with this person and you allowed him authority to use your credit? There are a number of people that were just afraid to come forward. And it is a great thing that Jennifer was able to give them that voice so that they can now come forward. And we see that there are dozens on dozens of alleged victims, as she mentioned, the same story, whether it was their credit abuse or money's taken from them, cars taken from them. It has to stop at this point.
And Angela, if I could just add something to that, Ramona pointed out something very important there. When people are reporting this to the banks or their insurance companies or the police, oftentimes what they're going to be told is, well, you should have known better, or you should have done this, and you were in a relationship, and were you involved? And the victim becomes the accused and becomes investigated, and it puts so much pressure and stress on them that they just say, forget about it, I'd rather not pursue it. And so it is, and when they do that, it's not about the strength of their character. They were very strong to come forward in the first place. It's about the system not working, and the system basically, it's that same system that people like Aaron Nichols are able to abuse and take advantage of, so they can go through and survive all these years doing the same thing.
Well, Jennifer, how did it feel when you came forward, right, and people were criticizing you, and they were saying things like, oh, I don't believe her, oh, she's stupid, she's choosing the wrong guys, and kind of putting the blame on you for letting, quote unquote, letting something like this happen?
Right. I think for me, I've had to have tough skin for so long, because I've been accused of a lot of things, or just, being on TV, you have to develop tough skin. But this is it's a personal situation for me, but I just felt like I can't be embarrassed about it. I have to be courageous. I have to step up and talk about this, because it happens to people every day. And like Jamie mentioned, people they don't have faith in the legal system. But I say, you know what? Well, let me see. Let me go to my platform and see if maybe anybody saw him. Now, the comments some of them are harsh, but I do feel like the post has been beneficial because, like I said, a lot of people have reached out to myself. They posted stuff in the comments, and I've learned a lot of information since putting up the post. So I definitely don't regret it, and I think it was a good thing. And you know, there's always gonna be haters, and there's always gonna be people that doubt you. But you know, all I was a victim of was being a nice person.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this. I know a lot of people have contacted you, and of course, these are all still allegedly people that we haven't necessarily proven what if their story is legitimate or not. But even men have reached out to you, right?
Oh, men have reached out to me. I got 3 new victims this morning. I mean, first of all, it's not just women. He definitely preys on women, but it's men as well. And some men are claiming allegedly they've been in a relationship with him. And then some men are just saying, you know, I gave him money to get a car and he ran off with my money. So there's just a lot of stories. Again, I don't know what's true, what's factual, but everybody seems to have a similar story, which is really sad. And one of the reasons why I'm really grateful for you and having us on this platform, because I feel like people will see this and hopefully they won't be afraid to talk about it. I mean, it happens to the best of us.
Now, Jamie, what would you recommend for a person in this position? Because obviously, besides just this person that Jennifer and Ramona had to deal with, besides just Aaron, people are going through this in general, right? This is definitely a time when, especially during this pandemic, when people are preying on people and they're running all kinds of scams right now. What is the process that you can go through if you're trying to, you know, track down somebody that has stolen from you, that has gotten something from you, that has ruined your credit, any of those things? What's the process that that person should go through?
Well, look, they can report it to the authorities. They need to understand that they can't just report it and then sit back and expect that it's all going to be taken care of. They need to actively be a part of any investigation. They need to put pressure on the authorities to do the right thing. You know, that the authorities work for the people, so the people need to feel that they can expect justice. Some people may not feel comfortable in doing that. They can reach out to attorneys in their area. There's also likely, especially if they can't afford an attorney, there may be legal organizations that can provide representation to people who've been victimized. They can reach out to various public service organizations that may be available to help them as well. It's important that people just don't feel shame in the situation. Like you said, this happens a lot, and a lot of people won't come forward because they feel ashamed. And like Ms. Williams said, the only thing that she's guilty of is being a nice person, and that's the same for many people who become victims of scams. The scam artists are relying on the fact that they will not come forward because they are ashamed. So they just need to find that same strength, that same inner strength that Ramona has had all these years, and Ms. Williams had, and just come forward. And reach out. Use social media. They may not have the same platform, but they need to understand they have a voice, and there are people out there that will listen. They just need to search them out and find them.
Yeah, if Ramona hadn't posted that on Lipstick Alley all those years ago, you guys might not have ever connected. Were there some red flags, Ramona and Jennifer, that you would tell other women, like, these are some red flags and some warning signs you should look out for?
For me, you know, I really wasn't in Atlanta, so I was in LA. You know, I was filming Basketball Wives, so I wasn't really around him too much to see any warning signs. It was really when I moved to Atlanta, but again, we were not together, that things just weren't starting to make sense. So I think for me, I didn't really see any warning signs. That's the one question that my friends have been asking me, like, wait, so you didn't, and I really did not.
I personally don't like the use of like red flags or warning signs, because I feel that that's still placing blame on the victim. It doesn't matter if there were things that didn't necessarily add up. The fact of the matter is, He preyed on people's emotions. He preys on these people. And it takes a lot of courage to come forward and say, this happened to me. You spend a lot of time blaming yourself. Maybe I should have seen those red flags. Maybe I should have ignored them. It's not about that. It is about someone who is taking advantage of people, and they shouldn't be able to do that anymore. Period.
Yeah. Well, just as a warning sign for other women, though, because it might be things that you were like, when you look back, you might say, all right, girl, if this happens, let me tell you, that's a red flag.
You know, your gut tells you whether or not some things are not right. You know, there shouldn't necessarily be a thing where you have to go ahead and Google someone, where you have to hire a private investigator. If he tells you that he has a legitimate business, you should be able to go to that business. You should be able to see it. If he is a car dealer, you should not be going to another car dealership. If he is giving you a car, you should be able to go to that dealership. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. You can come to my office and see what it is that I do. If someone is not forthcoming with what they do for a living, they clearly don't do that.
All right, and Jamie, last thing, what would you tell? What are some of the possible charges that Aaron can face now that if everything is going through, you guys have an active investigation? What is he potentially being charged with?
Well, honestly, Angela, we've been bombarded with responses to Ms. Williams' post, so that's hard to pin down right now. Obviously, her car was taken, and we're pursuing that through the Smyrna Police Department. But there's any number of things. We've had people who have alleged similar dealings with vehicles that they've had taken or money that they have been scammed out of, and that goes that's in many jurisdictions in many places, different states, and so that's a long list, Angela. That's a long list.
All right, ladies, has he tried to contact you?
He did try to contact me when the post went up. He called me, he was blowing up my phone, and I was actually talking to Jamie, and he started texting me, and I didn't respond. I just responded, please don't contact me. You can contact my attorney. And Jamie said he has not reached out to him.
Okay. And what about you, Ramona? From 10 years ago, has he tried to reach out?
Of course he's reached out. But my thing is, he can't run old tricks on new Mona. So it doesn't work anymore. The same game that he was able to use on me just doesn't work anymore. So I am stronger than that now. I'm a totally different person now. So I'm not falling for any of that. He can't play on my emotions because I don't have those for him anymore.
Well, I want to thank you both for your bravery today and the courage to be able to speak out against this. I know this is going to help so many people. So many people have gone through similar situations, have not come forward about it, blamed themselves. And I'm just glad that you guys had the courage to do that. Thank you, Jamie, for giving us the whole legal aspect and for helping these women out, because and the men, you know, like Jennifer said, some men have come forward and had some dealings as well. So I am hoping that justice gets served in this case, but if anything, this will prevent the next person from getting scammed as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Angela. And I really just encourage people, if they run into a situation where they do get scammed, to please speak up and go to your police and make a report, because a lot of these people that I have been speaking with, they haven't filed reports, or they just, you know, they felt like they were embarrassed or they were naive. So they didn't go to the police. And that's one, you know, common denominator that I've been finding with the people that I've been in contact with.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to follow back up.
Thank you so much,
Okay,
Angela.
thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you.